Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Dave and Phil for a very special video, another spoiler discussion. We are talking Star Wars, I believe, for the first time on the channel this year. I may be wrong, but I feel like it's the first Star Wars chat of the year. The Bad Batch season finale has been released today. The show has been airing for a couple of months. And we're here to give some spoiler-filled thoughts on the final season, maybe the final episode, and maybe reflecting on the 3 seasons. I guess we could call it as the first and maybe only Clone Wars spin-off series to ever be done. But first of all, before we get into things, I want to ask, how are we all doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you very much, my friend. It's been, I can't believe it's been so long since we've chatted Star Wars on the actual channel here. I think last time I was here was the Oscars. I mean, that was back in February, March. So it's been a minute, but no, I'm looking forward to actually talking about the show. It's finally come to run its course, and we'll chat of maybe what might be next or what isn't next, or is that it all over? We'll find out.
Yeah, no, I'm doing good. It's been even longer for me. I don't think I've been on since tail end of last year. I can't remember which one it would have been for, but it's been quite a while. So
you are in space, aren't you? So
indeed, I am. I'm out in the ether somewhere.
Tough, yeah, it's tough to reach. Yeah,
exactly. Lost in the ether. I've returned.
Nice.
But no, I'm looking forward to chatting some Bad Batch because we were there for the panel last year, so it's nice to kind of see it all to its conclusion.
Yeah, and kind of sticking with that, for people at home, we do want to hear from you. So please do comment your thoughts on the Bad Batch. If you've watched the show, what you're looking forward to. This isn't the only Star Wars thing happening. It's not a Star Wars month. It would have been if I could plan one. But there's a lot of catching up of films to do. There's a lot of other things to do. And you may have heard of this film celebrating an anniversary in the middle of May. It's called The Phantom Menace. I should have put the quad poster back up. But yeah, that's a different story. But we're all going to be watching that, I think, over this weekend, right? I mean, I've got at least 2 showings booked so far, and I'll talk about them. But we're also building to the Acolyte. So there will be more Star Wars videos. There will definitely be a video on May the 4th. Something a bit different, a bit of a loophole. It is film-related, but not necessarily specifically about film. But that will go up on Saturday at some point, and when there's a schedule, when there are more films, I know Tate's seen Challenges tonight and a few other things. There'll be reviews hopefully going up on the channel for some new releases, as I'm unable to make it, ironically, to the cinema, unless it's Star Wars at the moment. But I'll be talking about it because, I get to watch Phantom Menace a bit for IMAX. But we don't hear from people commenting what they're looking forward to. And as well, if you don't have us on social media, now's a good time to do so. Linktree.com/cinemasavvy, and we've got a link to our Redbubble store in that description below. We do have Carl in the comments. Nice to see him as well. Lovely to speak to you, Carl, as always. It feels like forever since I've even been on a live stream, let alone doing a video, if I'm honest. A bit rusty. I was late getting this set up and tweets and all that sort of stuff. So, yes, by the time the Acolyte rolls around, which I'm pretty fair to say we're going to be doing weekly spoiler discussions as we do with a lot of the live-action Star Wars shows. Will there be a video for Tales of the Empire? I don't know, because I've just realised in my head that comes out on Saturday too. A lot of Star Wars. A lot of Star Wars is happening. But I guess we really need to talk about the Bad Batch, unless I missed something else off my notes, which I don't think I have. And I'm going to jump to you first, Dave. Phil mentioned we're all in the panel last year, a celebration for season 3, which was a great panel. The confirmation of it being the final season. I just want to get your sort of summarized thoughts on the first 2 seasons heading into season 3.
I think when we started this journey with the Bad Batch that was coming out, I think it was well said that it wasn't something I was particularly looking forward to. That hadn't been my favorite element when they were in the Clone Wars. We've got that story arc again in like the final season. So it's kind of, oh, yeah, okay, Bad Batch. I have come to love this cast of characters. Like, adore this show. The first 2 seasons I thought were really well executed. The animation just gets better and better. Some of the artwork that you get now and some of the screens, sometimes it looks like you're looking at actual direct Macquarie artwork sometimes when you see things the way they've had these animated. It's been fantastic. It's finding it was sort of a last season was like, okay, so how they're going to round out the story they've been telling and where they're going to go with it to kind of finish the story is quite a difficult thing because you've got a cast of characters in a time period where we know what's after, So it's a really difficult journey, I think, to take. But I really enjoyed the first 2 series as much more than I thought I was ever going to. And then we'll discuss thoughts on 3rd series.
Yeah, I mean, I loved the Bad Batch from when I watched the unfinished, unaired episodes of the Clone Wars when they had those 2 little arcs, one with Ventress and one with the Bad Batch. So, of course, when they brought it back for season 7, really cool to see. So when they announced the show, I was quite excited to see it. And then it's one of those shows that when we started back in the beginning of season 1, obviously it opened up with the old Clone Wars intro burning into the Bad Batch and kind of showed that lovely little crossover between the 2 and, the ending of one starting of another. And just to piggyback off what Dave was saying, especially with the animation, I mean, we'll get into the story of the finale later on, but there's a shot on a bridge with rain, with lightning, and a proper storm. If you go back and watch the very first episode of Clone Wars, you compare the 2, it is mad how far we've come in that time frame. No, it's been, and again, when we're talking about the panel last year, they said it's the final season. Okay, that is quite a lot to wrap up, but I have to say they've kind of rounded it up quite nicely in terms of, I don't think there's a filler episode this season, really. Okay, compared to, 1 filler episode, but 1 out of the 16 compared to, the 5 to 8 we got in 24 is kind of a big difference. So, no, really enjoyed this season.
Excellent. And kind of, I'm almost this weird middle ground that I remember, I don't know if we were doing was it Once the Force maybe doing Clone Wars Season 7? It's a long time ago now. Shout out to Clone Wars. Disney are continuing to do Disney Plus series on Steelbook, release the full Clone Wars box set. Thank you. That's all. But and then do a trilogy for this. Sorry, really random off topic. But I despised the Bad Batch in that season. And I'll be really honest for people, I wasn't looking forward to the series. And once again, Star Wars can very much prove me wrong. I wasn't a big fan of their arc. There were murmurs they were going to set them up. And in my head, I was moaning, like, why have we wasted 4 episodes of the final season of the Clone Wars when there's only 12 left to set them up? Why not, do a full season? Blah, blah, blah. Safe to say, I'm eating my words. I enjoyed season 1. I definitely preferred the start and the end. I know it's almost like Clone Wars and Rebels. Like you've got to give it time to get into it. And if I went back and rewatched season 1, it's probably got some very good character arc to lay the groundwork. But I definitely loved the beginning and ending of that season. Yeah. And with my Star Wars, with age, I say with age, clearly it's putting me at a young age. I like my politics in Star Wars. So getting the Senate again, Emperor. We'll talk about Rampart later as well. I've really enjoyed what the series has done, and I think because in my eyes, the Bad Batch was such a not a generic audience thing, but you could tell them in the Clone Wars was more of a, you didn't expect this was going to be the heavy political espionage series when you look at how they were compared to other characters that have appeared in Star Wars media. And I really appreciate what they've done with this series. And then season 2, I very much enjoyed. Season 3, I've enjoyed. I will definitely jump in and say that I don't think I've watched any of it weekly. I think I've almost waited for almost all the episodes to come out to catch up, to then only have to watch 1 or 2 waiting. I do prefer animated shows like that. And it's not criticism of releasing it weekly, it's not, but I think for a show like this, I've been able to appreciate it more by spending more time with it. And I'm very lucky in that sense that, here we are talking about the finale of 3 great seasons. And again, I doubted it, and many of us may have too. But if we talk about season 3, and I guess it's really tricky to specifically talk in season 3, even though that's the purpose of this review, we're going to talk about some character arcs. Now, we obviously have the main group. And I'm going to talk about a couple of other things later that are just springing in my head. I did watch this at lunchtime to finale, but let's start with Echo. Someone could do a great Iku. Or there's. Have you both seen the memes online about the posters where they like swap the grammar around of how you pronounce it if you're from New Zealand? So like the E is like an I, and it's great. But Echo's a character which I guess it's a bit like Ahsoka, right? And you look at the early Clone Wars stuff, it's like, oh no, the young kid that's going to come and be attached to them. But actually, Echo is the protagonist of the series, and she is the heart of this. And we'll talk about epilogue probably later. Omega, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Omega, yeah, sorry.
I thought you were giving a lot of time to Echo. Like, I mean, yes, he was good, but I mean, a whole.
No, I'm honestly.
Remember that bit when he got that new hand?
My brain is on another level. When you're so used to that, like, because I've been watching a lot of wrestling recently, I keep seeing all the memes about the Shield. So in my head, I'm like, Sierra, Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Delta, shoot. Yeah, it's different podcast if there ever was one.
Yeah.
But oh god, can you imagine Omega in the Shield? That'd be something. Yeah, sorry, Omega. I love that. I know it's jumping to end. I'm not going to talk about the epilogue, but the fact the series ends with her as well as starts with her, I think she's incredible. And I'm once again proving myself wrong, but I kind of want to ask you both your thoughts on her character arc, given that the series starts with her, away from the season 2 had that Empire Strikes Back ending where literally the Empire has won this time round. We're going to start with her in captivity, and it's her organizing her own breakout with Crosshair and all the others. All these amazing things season 2 set up almost in the first half of season 3 was incredibly, I don't know what the word is, like resolved whilst building to this insane climax. What are all your thoughts on sort of Omega's story for this season?
From coming in as that little girl when she first met her brothers to the woman that we see at the very end of this show, what a journey. I mean, I love the start of this show. I like how we got that passage of time in the first episode of season 3 where you saw her just after she'd been captured, and obviously she'd been there a while, and obviously the hair changed, so the model had changed. So I thought it was a really nice showing of like how she'd grown up a little bit and how long she'd been there. And obviously we kind of turned this from the Bad Batch show, and the first half was very much like an Omega and Crosshair double feature. Like just it was about them and their relationship and her finding Crosshair and bringing him back to the Bad Batch, bringing him back to the character he was when we first met him as an integral part of them. But I think the character Omega, I didn't think I would gel with as well as I have, but I've loved every step. I thought she was phenomenal in this series. I've loved every step they've taken with. I don't think there's been an episode where, if there's been anything a bit poor, I mean, we might talk about Ventress a little while later and some of that episode, but I think other than outside of that little bit where I was like, oh, don't go down that road, please. And they didn't, thankfully, go down the Force route. I thought they were about to. But I think she's been phenomenal. I think as a presence in that series just got better and better. And I thought she was exceptional in these final 2 episodes, from the breaking out and the Shawshank getting around the jail and finding Zillo beasts, and just superb. There's a moment in today's episode where they found out the Zillo beast had just comes through the side of the thing, and Crosshair asked them Echo's work, and they're both Crosshair and not Crosshair,
Hunter and Wrecker.
Hunter and Wrecker just went Omega. It's like, yeah, perfect. Like this character that she's learned so much from the being in the Bad Batch. I think she's been exceptional.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of it. It's the ending I still have problems with. I'm not gonna lie. When we get to the epilogue, okay, I have issues.
Okay.
Oh god. Okay.
Yeah.
This is new. We've not spoke about this, have we? To be fair, like, I was going to say, I was like, I thought you were about to say I've got problems and going to like list something earlier on, like the epilogue. Okay.
No, the epilogue I've got issues with, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Omega's journey though has been fantastic, and I love that opening with the passage of time again, with the hairstyle change, the outfit change, it's subtle. It's not a in your face. Yes, you see the marks, which is kind of reminiscent of Rey in The Force Awakens with the AT-AT, where she's got the marks on the inside. Although why no one does 1, 2, 3, 4 and a cross for 5 instead of just marking it up, it annoys the hell out of me. But that's just the thing. I love the subtleness of that, but also it's when she gets put in the vault, that's when things change. When she goes from being a useful prisoner to, oh no, this isn't what I thought it was. And she thought she was in trouble beforehand. When she got into the vault, it's like, oh, this is bad. But she did what she has done throughout the rest of the show, going, okay, I might be in a bad position, but those around me need lifting up. So she does a similar job to what she did with Hunter, Echo, and Wrecker, and especially with Crosshair and Tech. With those other kids, she takes them and goes, okay, you need help. I need to get out of here. You're going out of here with me, and I'm going to build you up. I'm going to make you come along for the ride, but you will be protected. And she exudes confidence without arrogance. It's a very well written character. I know that people have had issues with Omega. The one question I generally want answered is, though, Is she a clone of the Doctor, that same person, or does she come from Boba Fett, or where's the actual clone stock come from? But the rest of it, no, her character has been fascinating to watch. She becomes almost like a conscience for the Bad Batch in some sort of way, especially for Crosshair. A lot of it, especially when he has his PTSD, he sat there going, I am not the man I used to be. She goes, that's fine, you're the man you are now and you're free, so deal with it. Just cracks on with it. No, very well written character.
Yeah, and it is interesting with you mentioned how well written she is. Especially, I think I read somewhere today that for most of this series was done across COVID in terms of like voice actors recording and whatnot. And right, saying that the only time they were able to come together to do an episode of a table reading was actually for the finale. I mean, it must be almost a very lonely table reading. You've probably got like D. Bradley Baker and like 3 other people. That scene with all the clones breaking out, and I was like, oh my god, there's going to be behind the scenes of him just shouting like random clone voices, like, because if anyone hasn't seen his videos of how amazing he switches between the characters, it's actually remarkable. And I love that this series, I mean, it'd be undermining D. Bradley Baker's career as a voice actor to say the Bad Batch is the epitome of his career, but to be the 4 of the 5 lead characters in a Star Wars series across 3 seasons, considering you played this incredible supporting role for 7 seasons before across almost like a 10-year period, it must be incredible for him to have had this new journey into these characters and the distinct personas. Again, I mentioned I was stupid for sort of doubting this series when it was announced, but talking some of these, I've spoke so much about Crosshair over the last few years. He is probably everyone's favorite clone, maybe that's insane, but in terms of story arc, character development, and let's just start with the obvious, he survived. I didn't expect to see all of them survive today, I'll be really honest. I was hoping Wrecker died, and I think I've said that on record for like 3 years in a row. I've still never been a big fan of Wrecker, and that's okay, people. It's okay to not like some characters, but there was a moment where I thought, oh my god, they're about to like destroy Crosshair today, and they didn't. And I love his arc. And you go back to episode 1 of season 1, and it was so not obvious, but it was so much better for this series that he was the one of the 4 whose chip didn't stop working, and we got this incredible story set piece with him where we separated him from the others in season 2, and season 3 is about trying to bring them back together. The writing on this series is some of the best character work Star Wars has been able to do. I'm not criticizing the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars is an overarching Star Wars story telling the story of the biggest war in Star Wars history. You get different protagonists per week. You've got so many lead characters. You've got supporting characters. It's nice to get a clone series where it isn't lost to the Jedi. And this is probably the only way you can do it. The Jedi have to be gone, and it has to be right at the early days, post-Clone Wars, heading into the Empire, and what they've been able to do with these characters, I absolutely love. But Crosshair in particular is the one I think about. It's the raspy voice. It's going back to season 2 when he shoots the Indiana Jones general with that great moment. I absolutely love his character. And for this one, getting to that scene where it's Omega that chooses to hug him, I think epitomizes where his character has come and where he will go. And I think he'll eternally be one of people's favorite clones. You know how like pre-Bad Batch, everyone will talk about like favorite clones on like Twitter and like Wiki. Like people talk about Fives, they talk about Echo, they talk about Rex. I think Crosshair is going to be pretty high up for those discussions for the foreseeable future.
I love Crosshair. I thought his arc, from the way he needed the redemption because of the stuff he did in season 2 when he was being sent out by the Empire. Was it 2 or was it part of 1 where he was being sent out for these missions, just maiming and killing villages of people? And so he had this massive redemption arc that he needed to be taken down. The capture of him and the PTSD, the shaking hand, and his almost giving up that he was in that cell on Tantus and was just like, that's it. He was resigned to that now, and there was never going to be anything else. He didn't obviously want to break out. He was going to let his time go. I think he'd kind of at that point decide that should be his fate and that's what he deserved. For us to then get a little mini arc of him and Omega on a mission to get back to the rest of the batch, I've loved the whole thing. I loved how he then took Omega as like almost like a little Padawan, and she'd start picking up things. There was an episode where she was sitting looking at him and she had the toothpick in her mouth as well. She was just copying what he was doing. Her helping him over the shake, like using like horse meditation to help him out with that and to try and get him through. And for him to be, I thought going into this last episode, if anyone was going to be sacrificed, it would be Crosshair saving Omega. I thought something would go down where if we were going to lose any of them, Crosshair would be the one, and that would be the reason he would save Omega from something. Probably Hemlock, but no, it didn't turn out to be that. I thought when we got up that bridge, that might have been the end of him. But I'm kind of pleased that he survived. I think I was shocked that none of them went. I was the same as I thought we were going to lose someone. There was no way we'd get through. We'd lost Tech already, so I thought, right, the stakes are there where we could probably lose one or two. And the fact we didn't see them in the epilogue, I think you probably could have lost one. But don't get us wrong, I was happy when it got to that last shot before the epilogue, and they're all just sat all together, the batch that were there. I just thought it was a really nice moment. But I did think we were going to lose Crosshair on that final walkway moment. But I'm so glad he made it. He's had quite the character arc, and you're right, he will be up there. He will be thought about. I mean, Rex is for me is always my guy, my clone I go to, but Crosshair's right up there. I love it, how he came from the good soldiers follow orders to where he was in this final episode.
Yeah, you're starting to touch on my issues I've got with the finale and the epilogue, which is people surviving. But there's a lot of reasons for it. So I'll touch on that when we get to it. But as you're saying, to go from good soldiers follow orders to Plan 99, which Plan 99 they didn't enact, and Hunter kept telling Crosshair, no, we're not doing Plan 99. We plan on making out of it. So Plan 99 obviously is the Hail Mary, right? None of us are making out of here, but we're going to make a dent as we do it. But to go from Onderon, where they went on that first mission with the Empire, and they go, oh, we're not here to kill civilians, with Crosshair starting to go, no, that's the job. And his blind faith until you get to, I can't remember the name of the planet, but he's on there with the other clones, and he nearly dies just protecting some suits of stormtrooper armor, and he loses complete faith in the Empire, and he just guns down the lieutenant. That's one of the best written parts of the 3 seasons for me, is that complete 180. You could see him questioning orders anyway, but he'd had that extra conditioning, as you were saying, George. His chip it was still functioning. He hadn't removed it. He hadn't tampered with it. It was there, and it went into overdrive, and they went, what if we dial it up to 11? Which I think then is kind of some of the experiments they then went on to create the kind of super, not even the super commandos, but the like proper recon specialists they have towards the end.
The Shadows.
Yeah.
We called them.
Yeah.
And there was a moment, I thought they were going to be the new Praetorian Guard, but we'll discuss that after.
But you get to that point, and he is dialed up to 11, going through his orders, and then he starts to question things. He works with Cody, and then Cody disappears, and he starts to question his orders. And everything is it's increments. It's not a complete. They show you. It's one of the reasons why I love this show so much is they showed you a progression without, again, shoving it in your face. It wasn't the complete, everyone's gone against the Empire from the start. It was, here's one man who questioned his loyalty to his brothers and one to his employers, effectively. So by the time you get to that end point with the PTSD, and by the time he gets onto that bridge with Hemlock, and he does not stop shooting, you kind of get it. And it was fantastic, especially then. That's what I was referencing earlier, though, with the animation, though. That shot there with the rain and the lightning, it is one, for a animated show, one of the most visually stunning shots I've ever seen. And it's only because it's a pitch black storm and the lightning just kind of picks up drips and drabs here and there. But his arc is incredible. And by the time you do get to that end shot, yes, I'm going to get into my complaints later, but it was nice to see that by the end of it, Omega chose to hug Crosshair. And you have Hunter standing there going, I know it's not because she doesn't give a damn about the rest of us. It's because she needs to show him that her faith in him was rewarded after all. So it was really cool to see that from good soldiers follow orders to Plan 99. And when I actually met D. Bradley Baker last year, he did because I got to sign Good Soldiers Follow Orders because of my Clone Wars for Fives. He did it in both Fives' voice, but then also did it in Crosshair's voice. And like, that's just chilling. Like, seeing it in front of you is one thing on TV, but actually hearing it in person, no, it is chilling.
I'm so curious about your thoughts there, Plug. Sorry, I just keep thinking about that. Going off what you've been saying about the 99 in the group, and I think that's the big thing, is there is that camaraderie still, that 3 seasons in, they're not forgetting the errors of the past, and I don't want to say the fallout, that's obviously the story that's happened in between, but they're able to like consciously develop it past that. And you mentioned Hunter there. It sounds really rude, not like I've got nothing to say, but Hunter's like, I don't know, man. Like, okay, I wouldn't ever say there's been a character arc with him, but he's the leader of the group. That's how I've just always felt like he can't really change his persona, his character arc, because he was always there from day one, which to me makes him inherently less interesting. And it's not his fault. He is a good leader of the squad, but I've got no comment to say. And I'd be so far to say, not like, oh, this character doesn't have a story arc. It's such a lame way of looking at it. But obviously, we spoke about Omega, we spoke about Crosshair and these incredible things, and I think even Wrecker is developed a bit more in this season compared to some of the other ones. But Hunter's kind of that awkward wayside, but you understand why, and I can excuse it because I don't have an opinion on it. But certainly it lends more time to the characters that need that development more, which is what we get. Really, even as a lead show, you can't balance 5 lead characters equally for story. It end up convoluted no matter how long the show is, no matter what the show is. You can't balance 5 protagonists. So to have this squad where you've maybe got 2 or 3 key angles coming through at all times, I think is a really smart way to balance this series, which they've done. And it once again goes to show how good that animation development is at Lucasfilm and what they've done in the past, obviously, with so many great things that have moved into live action as well. But maybe easy for me to pass this over to you guys. Anyone want to add anything on Wrecker and Hunter? Not that I'm doing them disservice, that you guys might have more to say than I do.
I think you're perfectly right in saying that they were sidelined because of the. We know who Hunter is. We know he's the father figure for Omega, and he's put himself across that way in the first 2 seasons. We didn't need. The only time we really needed him in that series is what we got when they were reunited as the Bad Batch again, when Crosshair came back in, and that bit of friction between them as they became like getting back to one another and rebuilding that trust and the brotherhood. So yeah, I was fine with them being sort of sidelined off for these episodes. It didn't feel it did anything detrimental to their characters. They were there and they were still part of it. It wasn't their story this season. They kind of told their parts of this arc, and what we need to find out was how Crosshair came out of what we've had over the 3 seasons, where he would have this redemption of himself. So even Wrecker really didn't have much to do in this. When he was hurt, obviously teasing that he wasn't going to make it. He got bumped so many times, fell, was hobbling, was stabbed and pushed and all sorts, but he never still made it. He still made it back, so he's fine. I know, just before I do pass to Phil, the animation side you were saying, Phil, like that shot, like you say, with the rain and everything coming on, how good it looks. And then today I caught a glimpse of a clip from Attack of the Clones in the droid factory when 3PO gets his head put onto the droid, and it looks so much worse than an episode of The Bad Batch now. Like, you look at it going, wow, how far it's come, where that looks so much more realistic than what was in one of the feature films. It's just incredible. But yeah, so yeah, I'd agree with the Hunter thing, definitely sidelined, but with no balance against that. It was with good reason and purpose.
Yeah, and I agree. I think when it comes down to the Bad Batch across 3 seasons, I think each season kind of had their own member to be kind of the forefront. Season 1 was definitely Hunter. It was the right, okay, this is the new situation. We now need to make a new living. They go find Sid. They go and do a bunch of missions. They kind of make their way in the galaxy until they find a home. Once they found a home, then it was more on Wrecker, because a lot of it was him and Omega going off doing their own little things, and obviously bonding over food and bonding over a lot of the life lessons, and each one teaching Omega different things. And by the time you got to the end of it, then you start to get to one of my issues with the epilogue, where you find out both Wrecker and Crosshair lived. I mean, A, it would have been nice to see them, but B, Wrecker should have died. And I love Wrecker. He's my favorite out of the Bad Batch. I have my Wrecker jacket from Celebration from last year for a reason. But when he was completely mauled almost to death by a giant creature, shot at, dinged up, yes, he's supposed to be the tank. But the whole point leading up to that, every single point was, you really should stop. No, I'll be fine. Usually that indicates that by the time he gets to the end of it, that, oh, no, I'm fine, is hiding the fatal injury. It wasn't hiding a fatal injury. It was like, oh, such a cop-out. And that's one of the reasons why I'm going to get to the epilogue, is like, it's a cop-out. Because there's a lot of it where it's just like, oh, we've done this again, but where's the peril? And it just kind of like, oh, meh.
Is this not what we said about Ahsoka, though, for however many years? As in, pre-Ahsoka series, like, oh, how will she make it to the Clone Wars past Order 66? And but I get it. I'm just if I was picking one, I'd go Wrecker. And I know that, I mean, we can debunk. I mean, we're going to talk about Clone now, right? Like, we've talked about some of the leads. We'll talk Hemlock in this because this is his story angle, really. And this is where, to me, the great intrigue of the show is that Emperor development behind the scenes. Now, I'm not talking about bringing Palpatine back. I mean, I like the fact it isn't here's a team on a different mission every week, villain of the week. I get that works a lot more for season one, as you said, Phil. You're developing this group, how they're going to earn a living post-war. But you need that villain, and Hemlock's got nothing on them physically. He has to use his intelligence, his sort of creepiness. Shout out to Kevin Kiner for an amazing score with him. Whenever he popped up on screen, there's just always this nasty atmosphere and environment with him. We know ultimately what Necromancer would lead to, but we don't know in story and canon where the series is going. And it's great that even a quick Tarkin cameo at the end today is even furthering the arrogance you could put of Tarkin and his what would you say his demise was his own doing. It was through his arrogance he got burned up in the Death Star. And I like the fact that we've always had that scattered in other mediums of Star Wars, that there is that side to Tarkin where, yes, he is the best at what he does, and respectively of being a Grand Moff. That's a title, right? That's not a job. I guess it's a job to a degree. But I love all the Hemlock stuff. And let's just start talking about it. Before I even talk about Hemlock, the people that were his surrounding thing, right? There was this conspiracy that this assassin was going to be Tech.
Yeah.
And I hated this rumor every week. Every week it came up on Twitter, and I didn't like it. I didn't even need to be watching the show on time because I waited till there was a lot more episodes done. I was like, no, please don't bring him back. There's lots of ways to bring back people in Star Wars. Yes, they've done it before, but he had a fairly definitive way to go. Unless this is suddenly Lord of the Rings and there's, a flying Balrog and sword and all that stuff in between. But Tech's death needed to stay as his death. It's one of the defining moments of the 3-season show. But I've just got to say with this, the whole logic that we never got a big reveal. Obviously, we know that they're clones that have been, further programmed or manipulated. But I love that they were almost teasing it in the far, like, we're going to show you what they look like. But we're never ever going to make it so blatant, which you'll get close to their face. We know they're clones. You might get a head, coming off a helmet. I loved this Death Squad, how brutal they were. I loved that is his ideology further, that he was trying to convert the Bad Batch into that. I thought for a glaring moment today that he was about to say, like, these are his Praetorian Guards, or we were going to get some big reveal to be a big thing down the line for the Emperor or the Empire. And I like the fact there was none of that. It doesn't have to tie into other things. It just ended up being this sadistic villain, a villain of science, using that to his advantage moving forward. And I want to kind of get all your thoughts on Hemlock. We spoke about how brutal his death was. And this is weird to say. A brutal death has to be earned in film and TV. And that's really weird to say. But the way he goes out is almost in parallel to him, right? He's been this threat for multiple years. You're not just going to snipe him. You're going to get like 1, 2, 3, 4 bullets through him. Then he's going to fall off the side of the bridge and fall to his eternal death. And I'll say as well, for 1 millisecond, I thought of the epilogue for some reason that Hemlock was alive, and I was fuming, but obviously it wasn't. Just the way the planet design was, and the body coming up in the darkness. But yeah, I love Hemlock. What a great performance, and what a great story to do. To take ideally a kids show, a spin-off from another kids show, and make it this political deep series about what it is to be a clone, and then the process of cloning and what the future could be for an empire with that technology. I absolutely loved it. And the finale today, I know really spoke about the finale, but a great finale. I know that it's unfair to compare it to Clone Wars, Rebels, and other shows have had, but I think today could be the strongest finale of the Star Wars animated series if people were sort of doing those kind of comparisons.
Yeah, Star Wars animation is really where they've pretty much nailed every landing they've gone for so far in their animated shows, and I just think they're getting better and better. So I am looking forward to whatever the next thing they announce that is going to be, or where we're going next, into which era and things like that. So I can't wait for that from them. But yeah, go back to Hemlock. I think Jimmy Simpson, who voiced him, does exceptional work. That deep, whispery voice is absolutely goes through you. He's so this calm character, even literally until that very last few moments when everything starts going to hell. He's still this calm and composed. Still got that winning mentality, and even when he's on that bridge and like he's telling Meg he's going to threaten to shoot Meg, which Megan knows that he's not going to do because he needs her. And I just loved that moment of him getting his comeuppance to the recovery of Crosshair and that same thing, making the shot because Megan knew where that shot was going to go. Like she knew exactly where the cuffs need to be for them to come off. That was exceptional. But yeah, I say Jimmy Simpson, just hats off. He has made a character that was a bit part player in the earlier season, but he took the real lead in this season 3. And I thought he was exceptional.
Oh, Hemlock is my favorite thing to come out of the Bad Batch. Like straight up. Yeah, lucky the Bad Batch themselves. No, Wrecker's out of the Clone Wars technically. No, in terms of actual just unique character created for the show, Hemlock. We've seen a lot of Imperial before, and Rampart I didn't really gel with. Rampart felt like another Callus.
Not even with his sexy beard.
Not even with the beard. Like the beard is good though, but it was like another Agent Callus who was.
I'm glad they didn't do the full Callus route though.
Yeah,
they probably knew they couldn't do that.
No, but it felt like in the
I know what you mean.
General aura of the character felt a lot similar to Callus, whereas Hemlock,
posh British Empire,
Hemlock from the start was just menacing, and without having to. There's no pretense to it. It's just the quiet, confident, arrogant Imperial, and we're just going to prove it. And if you don't believe us, cool, you're just gonna get eliminated along the way, and then we'll be better than you because you're dead. That's just the way the Empire rolls. And he. Perfect, and I agree with you, Dave, on that bridge especially. Even at the end, he's like, "Well," and that's when I thought he was actually going to kill Omega, because I genuinely thought it was going to be one of those. If we can't have her, no one can. I thought that would have been it. I thought that would have been dark, obviously. Like we're down the road of like, oh crap, this could be a thing. But even then, on that bridge, he's like. The world is falling around apart me. Quite literally, my boss is coming in to give me a big telling off. There's a Zillow Beast that's on the loose, which we haven't touched on the Zillow Beast, by the way. One of the best things happening with the Bad Batch is to get an answer to the Zillow Beast problem we had from the Clone Wars. Of, well, there's the whole thing. What have they done with it? Where's it gone? What are they doing? So that's kind of cool. But no, to have that arc completed with Hemlock being so belligerent and so set on his way, that Project Necromancer, along with Stardust and all the rest of the Imperial projects, like the Defender project for Thrawn, you can see all the strings of the Empire. And it's another little thing that then shows you why the Empire ultimately fails, because you have all these projects in all these areas that it splits the resources up far too much. And then you don't have the definitive answer. It's a subtle note, but it's a good note. And Hemlock, no, from start to finish, my favorite unique character, as I say, to come out of the Bad Batch was him from start to finish. Love him.
Imagine Palpatine, like the day after the Death Star blown up, now thinking, shit, all that money spent on the Death Star when I could have had my own clone.
Yep.
But I mean, the cloning side of thing, I mean, even having the final, I'm so sorry, I'm terrible with Kaminoan names, but was it Lamasu, who's the last living, well, not necessarily last living one, but in respect of the prior Bad Batch characters, even she gets to go out with a bang. Like that great moment of, and this is kind of it with, oh god, I forgot the officer's name. We literally just spoke about him.
Rampart or Hemlock?
Rampart.
Yeah.
Rampart in this series is great because he was that ridiculous cartoonish villain from the first season, destroyed by Palpatine through some of the best Star Wars political moments in all of Star Wars.
God.
When he dismissed him, when they set him up, I loved all of that. And to them to think, oh, this guy's gonna get that development arc, and I'm like, oof. And the moment he starts getting the data and his like all the blackmail, I was like, oh my god. Right, here they go. And I saw a great parallel on Twitter earlier where they obviously had him destroying Camino, and then they've obviously got the Camino destroying him as a George Lucas. It's poetic, it rhymes. I did rewatch yesterday the classic Phantom Menace documentary, which is on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
Still one of my favorite behind the scenes things ever made. But I love what they did with all these small arcs from season 1 being tied up now in a neat bow. There is no left open character arc in this series, bar Sid, who probably died. That's what I'm going to say. Whatever happens,
definitely dead.
No, Crosshair the day after that family photo, he went there. He did.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm nipping out for lunch, and he didn't tell me when he really went to do. But it's one of them where I've just loved what the series has done. But again, the stuff with the cloning, the technology, Project Necromancer, we know that is mentioned in Rogue One, I believe, or am I wrong? No, it's sorry, that's the Darksaber references in that, isn't it? I keep forgetting. And I've not watched Rogue One since before Andor because I'm not going to rewatch it until after Andor season 2, the longest gap between videos in the series ever. But even getting to that Tarkin moment where he brings up Project Stardust is amazing. It's a little thing. You don't need to know what it's about, but it's like when we had it Andor, right? You got that great post-credit scene of what they were actually building, and the Death Star is almost like fate for Star Wars. Like, you don't have to talk about the Death Star. You don't have to ever chuck it in people's face. Yes, they made 2 or 3 or too many of them. But it's one of them where I love that they've built up this as it's the super weapon. It's hidden. It's a secret. And I like the fact they're able to build this up because, of course, it can't be a secret in 77 because it's the original, it's behind me on the box set. Everyone knows it. And I like in canon them building towards this thing one day appearing that nobody knows about, nobody could imagine happening. And it's something I've absolutely loved seeing. And I think this series does such a great job at moving eras from the clones and cloning in technology-wise into then the super weapon, the focus point of the Empire. Because an obvious point you think about, like, let's say Star Wars was released in original order, like 1 through to 9, rather than 4, 1, 7, etc. You would think, hold on a minute, why doesn't the Empire use clones, and why doesn't they do this? And maybe in a different timeline, with history, obviously it's a stupid what if, it's a super hypothetical, but I'm sure if George Lucas had done this 1 through to 9 with technology today, he probably would have made the Empire all clones or whatnot, but that didn't happen because of just how
but for one random line between Luke and Obi-Wan, we end up with 2 fantastic shows, 3 if you count Rebels, with recurring characters and a whole load of
history. It's like
history coming from one sentence. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and you've got to give props to not just George Lucas or Filoni, but everyone that's been involved on these animated shows over the last decade and so. And I know we're going to get Tales of the Empire this weekend. I know that Filoni's almost said, hasn't he, that this is going to be that thing for new people at the animation departments who want to make the step up, and we can give them a few episodes each, and he can come back to do some episodes. It's a really great thing that Star Wars is doing, and in my eyes, it's something that I feel, I don't want to say the Disney era is missed, but obviously the sudden sale of Lucasfilm to Disney and whatnot, Filoni, etc., aren't in the positions they are in now because they probably weren't ready. But what they are now doing is, rather than having a Dave Filoni to develop one day, there are clearly people behind the scenes who in the next 10, 20, 30 years are probably going to start taking up the roles that Filoni has or that Favreau has. And I think Lucasfilm is protecting their own future, and that's the sort of thing George Lucas will also do himself. Developing, it's like bloody football coach, he's developing your own players in your squad. Which is a great thing for them to do. But I'm kind of waffling talking about cloning. Did anyone want to talk about anything else I might have missed, or you guys want to talk about? Phil, you brought the Zillow Beasts. Lovely to see it.
I think my only thing that I kind of want to mention, obviously, we talked about all the great things in the series. I just want to take a moment to take maybe my only lowlights from the show. And there was the filler episode about where they went looking for that bounty hunter. In the Florida, wherever it was, looked like Florida, space Florida. That was that episode. But the only other thing I had any real issue with was the bringing back Ventress for that one episode where we were really told that Omega is force sensitive, but that it was a lie, that she was lied to at the end, and like, oh no, you're not, definitely not. No, you're absolutely fine. No, you're okay. Don't worry about it. And off she went. I just felt if you're going to bring back Ventress, and I'm guessing they probably brought her back for other reasons, that she's going to show up somewhere else in another show, in another time when they bring that out. So we've already announced that she's alive, so so when she turns up, it's not a shock. Felt like a huge waste of that character to turn up for that point. Could have been so many others that were out there at the time that could have done the same thing. It just felt like a real waste of a character moment for me.
They could have used Embo, they could have used Dengar, they could have used anybody, and it had to be Ventress. Yes, I get it, because they're talking about the whole force-sensitive part, which leads into the cloning and then leads into Project Necromancer. I kind of get the steps, but she has one of the greatest endings in the Dark Disciple book. She's one of the greatest character arc stories from Clone Wars. They ended it perfectly, and they had to bring her back. And when they bring her back, I'm like, okay. They then released a statement. This is how bad it was when they brought her back. They released a statement going along saying, we are not discounting the book. The book is still canon. Those events do happen. But I'm like, okay. But it talks about in the book how the marks left on the face from lightning. And it talks about so much. It talks about her death in a lot of ways. And it's like, okay, you've brought back a character who's very near and dear to my heart and done nothing with her. And then to go, as you say, Dave, it's like, oh, she's going to probably pop up in another thing somewhere. And I can almost guarantee it will be with Omega. It's going to be because, and then it gets into my cop-out and it gets into my annoyance with the epilogue. Because the epilogue...
Can't wait to get the epilogue.
Yeah, we'll get there. But yeah, wasting Ventress was... I was fuming. I was absolutely fuming with that episode because, yeah, she's one of my favorite characters. And like, if you're going to bring a character back who has a lot of, people, a lot of fans, you got to do it right. And I felt they didn't land well with that. I agreed. There's not a lot of lowlights I have with this show. I mean, I'm still a big fan of the kind of weird pod racing with motorbikes they had in season 1. Like, yeah, people say it's a filler. Like, yes, it is a filler, but it's quite funny. I enjoyed it. The rest of the show has been... It is fantastic. And by the time you end up getting to its conclusion, it's done the very stereotypical thing in the new era. Not only with the Disney era, but I'm saying it with Clone Wars as well. It starts off light and ends up very, very dark. But it does it well. And this is another fantastic show. And this is a show that Filoni didn't have a lot to do with. Yes, he was executive producer, but he wasn't writing the show. He wasn't the full creative head. And we talked about this last year when Ian McDermott came back. He said, the only reason I came back is because Dave Filoni phoned me up. I wouldn't have done it if he hadn't have asked. So Dave Filoni's got the pull to make little bits and pieces happen. But it was those little drops here and there, and it led up to what was mostly a fantastic conclusion.
I think as well, just the McDermott thing, 'cause I remember chatting to him in the autograph line, which was really cool. 'Cause I had a Kenobi posted. I was like, yeah, let's just talk Bad Batch because this insane thing just happened where you turned up and he was saying it wasn't just a friendly call. It was the fact that it was almost a political scene. That it wasn't, oh, come in and be the emperor for 10 seconds. It was like, here's a role and it actually has some importance in the future of Star Wars. And I quite like that. And listen, McDermott, is he already confirmed for Celebration next year? Like they've announced a couple of guests. I think Tamara Morrison, Ashley Eckstein, Auntie Daniels, Bill Chang, Tamara, like they're already getting guests going. Maybe McDermott wasn't announced, but you can imagine he probably will be there. But he is one of those Lucasfilm guys where he has come back for the right reasons, the right projects. And obviously, you can say, obviously, it could be money, it could be for story, but he is one of those where it brings to me, and I think it's unfair to put Clone Wars in this because you look at contextually of how many episodes, the release in 2008 compared to the years that followed, as where Star Wars wasn't not as big, that's ridiculous, but the prequels didn't have that affection and respect they now have in 2024. And I think, I'm not saying if the Clone Wars mainstay, you'd get McDermott, but they got him in for Star Wars Rebels, right? And I know that at one point he replaced Sam Witwer, who was doing it. And it's one of those where Lucasfilm have a very good thing going and a very small, loud minority online are not reflective of clearly not only creative decisions, but financial decisions. Like, you wouldn't be getting 3 seasons if they weren't performing. You wouldn't be getting these characters going to live action if it wasn't performing behind the scenes. And behind the scenes is a lot more than just viewing data. It's a lot more than making money. So many things coming together. And I really like this show has once again developed that, hey, guess what? We can do kids stuff, but we can do that adult stuff too. And we can do it in a kids show, just like we did 10 years ago, just like we did a couple of years ago with Rebels at times. But I really like this series, what they were doing. But I'm with both of you that the adventure stuff is something I just didn't care for. I'll be really honest. I binged so many episodes together of this series. There's just been a lot happening, so I've not, again, followed it weekly. The Ventures episode I sort of forgot about until you both started talking to me, which isn't a great thing. But, you know, it's not one of the immediate story episodes. But again, we know where the story is heading. So my eyes in TV shows have always focused on what's coming, what's ahead. I'm naturally more invested in certain of the characters coming in. And Phil, you know me, I've not read the books. I don't know the expanded universe canon. It's called that, the expanded universe. It's the old
the old EU stuff is Legends.
Yeah, Legends. Sorry, but with the extended universe, obviously, I've always been that guy that says it. Like, there's a rule. It's like live action film, live action TV, animated series, books, comics, video games, probably up there. And it's one of them where I think I'm the same as you, Dave. They probably are planning something long term. I don't think they just bring it back for the sake of it. It was a big moment in the trailer for the trailer discussions, but it's not something I've seen develop too much since. So if there is a new show, a new animated series to be announced, maybe that'll be D23 this year. Maybe that'll be Celebration next year. Maybe there'll be silence for a couple of years. And they say, hey, guys, we're not going to do anything at the moment. But it's one of them where the door is closed on a great series. And let's talk that bloody epilogue. Phil, do you want to go first? Or do you want me and Dave to talk good about it first?
I'll leave that up to you, George.
Okay, I loved it. I almost cried. Thank God I was watching it in the office and not at home, because I probably would have cried if I was at home, if I'm being really honest. I saw a lot of people tweeting like, "Oh, this is really emotional. This is this," and I was thinking, like, "Oh no, they're going to like do a Rogue One and wipe them all out." But I thought the show finished, and that's when I was like, "Oh my God, Hemlock lives, for fuck's sake!" Because it starts with the silhouette behind her, and the planet looks like Hemlock's. I was like, "Oh no, somehow Hemlock survived." And then it was an aged up Echo, and I was like, not Echo Omega, sorry. Why do I keep getting it wrong? And I was like, oh wow, like we're getting an epilogue, and I was like, this is kind of emotional. Like, she's all grown up, and then it carries on, and then there's old man Hunter, and I was like, she's gone through the rebellion, like. Not visual gag. The Simpsons one where it's like she died on her way home on the planet, and they run out of budget, and it's like, okay, we're not going to get it going into some doom ship that we saw in episode 4, thankfully. But I loved the epilogue, and I like the fact it jumped forward in time to secure the ending of the Bad Batch and their story arc for that gap in between. I'm not even saying to set. So I didn't even think about the future until Charlie messaged me saying, "Could we get her in live action one day?" I was like, I didn't even think about her future. Maybe. But I like the fact that she has gone to join the rebellion. They need a pilot. She is clearly qualified beyond belief. Same age as Boba Fett at this point in time. And I thought it was a really, really lovely scene. My only gripe with that scene is that there's only Hunter there. I joked to you guys that old man Crosshair would probably look like an 80s football hooligan. Wrecker would probably be like Vinnie Jones. But I'm fine with them not being there. If I'm honest, I'm okay with them not being there. It was a really touching scene, and I think that's, to me, like that bookmark on the final page of the book, isn't it? But it's a literal 19 years later, like Harry Potter. It is literally is it 19 years later or 18? Yeah. Who knows?
It's about that.
Yeah. All your thoughts there, point. I just didn't see it coming, and I just thought it was a lovely, lovely scene. And I think the characters earned that as well.
I'm right with you, George. My literally only gripe with it, that would have left it perfect for me, is that we didn't get an exact time frame of where she was going to in the rebellion side, whether it was like in A New Hope time, was it towards Jedi time? I would like to have just known just where we were, just something that gave us a spot where she was going to head to next, so I just knew where she was going to be in. But I loved coming back. You're right. I would have liked them all to have been there if he knew she was going to leave. That she's obviously been planning for a while that she was going to head off and join the rebellion. That they would have all been there to see her off. I think that would have been the only thing. But I loved seeing like old man Hunter there just to see her off, and it was more the acceptance that he had to let her go. Like you said, like not just it wasn't just like part of the batch that they looked at that was their kid. Like from the moment they took her on, it was like his daughter, not just a member of the Bad Batch to him. And I loved the look of Omega. I thought she looked amazing as the older version of the model of her. Thought she looked great. Taking off in the stars, got a bit of a swell of music. Perfect little bookmark to finish the series out. Phil tells why it was bad.
Because she goes off and joins the rebellion. Because it's
but it didn't say on en route to Alderaan, did it?
No. But it's more the
That would have been amazing.
Again. Are you
lands
kidding
on
me?
Alderaan, flash of green.
That would have been great because then she would have died. I felt like really we've done this yet again. Is what it felt like. Like it's and the Rebels, it felt earned. This didn't. This was much more along the line of what I would have preferred from from that perspective from the epilogue would have been okay. So the Death Star didn't work out, but let's look into that whole cloning business again. Now that would have been better because Omega living is one thing. For there to be still no threat, but it obviously sets up a threat. And it obviously sets up the next story arc, which is going to be, okay, they find out she's still alive. They find out, okay, Project Necromancer is still a thing. We have it in
Do you think they will?
Mando. And it was just,
I don't think we're gonna see her again. If I'm honest, I think it was
we
literally
may
just like
not, but then that makes it even worse for me because like, okay, cool, you've saved her, but for what reason?
Next time we see her pregnant on Jakku, and
it felt like a cop out. It felt like here we go again. They've just ended it on a high note. Go off to join the rebellion. Okay, well we've had that before. What's new? It felt like an anticlimax. If they ended on just the end shot,
Grogu in the Mandalorian is where she's going to rock up.
Most likely, but it's like again.
But it should be older than Mandalorian, right? No, ignore me. I was thinking of episode 7.
It's only
a couple of years after, isn't it?
Jedi.
Yeah, no, it's
I just think it's a nice piece that I think her thing is that she's not the kind of character that would sit there and do nothing whilst there is a war and a rebellion that she can contribute to.
No, and that's fine.
And she can't bring her brothers with her. And also, did anyone ever know she was a clone? Like, she won't look like Tamara Morrison, I'm sure, but identity-wise, she should be safe. Although it would be very awkward if she came across Boba Fett.
Well, the Empire's got files.
Yeah. Wait, but has it though? Because they destroyed the whole cloning thing, right?
They have.
Because I read a great article saying that the Empire didn't ever know of Omega because Hemlock was anyone that knew, and he's dead. And all the research and data has been destroyed. Which is that's almost the way I've read it as them saying we've sort of secured them.
Here's my thing though: Project Necromancer is the big kind of we justify Episode 9 this way.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong; it wasn't like I hate it because it's nice, but I just kind of like this is just a cop out. I've done it again. That was my feeling.
I loved it.
I have imagined with
usually I'm the one sitting there going, I love it all. It's grand. Everything's awesome. Like I will sing the praises of everything, but this time around, like, no, I can't.
I have this mindset with it where not to sort of moan on episode 9, but I saw an article ages ago saying, yes, you can continue building episode 9, but nothing will change about episode 9 is terrible. That wasn't me saying, that was an article I read. And obviously that's very typical of Star Wars. And I kind of did think, because I really do appreciate that if they want to flesh out the Emperor stuff, like ultimately we know it wasn't planned, but there's a lot of things that haven't been planned in Star Wars that've been built decades around. Looking at you, twins. And I don't mind that. Now, will it for me change my thoughts on 9? Probably not. But I will always respect what they are going to build toward and make it look somewhat more reasonable.
You say that it has changed my opinion on 9. Legitimately, like with them building it, because I like that the world building inside it. It's why I like the books.
And I think there's more to come that we're going to get through the Ahsoka stuff, through the Thrawn stuff, like the Heir to the Empire. I'm guessing we're calling it that now. Yeah. That's going to clearly be massive in terms of that next step. I mean, we had the Dark Council scene, didn't we? Of course, in Mandalorian in that last season, which was great. That's one of my favorite scenes in entire Mandalorian, and he's not in it. And that's the sort of stuff I like. I like that dark side. What's going on? What are they up to? What's their plans? You know, people moan about trade federations and embargoes. I don't mind those. I quite like seeing these Star Wars things fleshed out. And clearly with the Acolyte, we might also get something very similar moving forward. That we may be getting, not teasing the Emperor in Episode 9, but we might be starting to tease a Senator Palpatine maybe one day through a series. That's not me speculating. That is a wild conspiracy theory I have. That at some point or another, the Acolyte will eventually lead to Darth Plagueis. Don't quote me on High Republic, Phil. I've read nothing, so I don't know anything.
Yeah.
But I just feel that they keep saying the Acolyte is before the Phantom Menace. We're going to see something that has to connect to the Phantom Menace.
It's 150 years before, and if they do go down the route of a Mun,
no, 150.
No, it's 150.
Well, there goes my Senator Palpatine, but maybe Darth Plagueis might be alive.
Because Darth Plagueis, if they go down the old EU route to bring him in, was a Mun, and Muns can live for 100 to 200 years. And a Force-sensitive Miri Arlen can live for 150, 200 years.
To get a lightsaber in the face and the sleep.
Yes, but there's ways you can connect to that with a dark side user. If it's Plagueis, they can do the route into it from that. So I'm not saying no. In fact, I hope that's the outcome, because that would be cool to kind of link those eras in and maybe bring more people into the High Republic era, because my God, the Phase 3 books have been fantastic so far. It's so dark.
We are getting a special look on Episode 1 as well.
Yes, we are.
I don't know if it's before or after, but we're going to get an Acolyte something on the showings of Episode 1. I don't know if it's a preview before the showing or it's
I'm gonna guess
after the credits.
I don't know much.
It seems unwise to put it after, because people might not wait till after the credits because they know there's nothing coming. So it might be we might get like a special presentation before the show starts.
I just need a Nemoidian to say now there's two of them.
Yeah.
To be fair, you're bang on, Dave, because if they just put up, says 150 years for the Phantom Menace, that play a 2-minute scene, I'm going to assume we're getting a new trailer this weekend. No one's said that obvious thing yet. Maybe I'm just dumb, but it would make sense if it comes out and during the 4th, May the 4th, we'll get a trailer. We know we're getting some stuff. It's May the 4th weekend. There's Lego sets that have all been released.
I am beyond excited. I've already got the entire Black Series Wave pre-ordered. It's
nice.
For the Acolyte?
The Acolyte, yes.
I thought about it and there's a new Phantom Menace things I've missed. And I was like, my prequel is lit up. It's still wild, isn't it? If I go to Celebration next year, it's actually more so on the premise of the 20th anniversary of Return of the Sith than anything else. That's kind of sad, but great at the same time. That's my MVP event. But yeah, I mean,
if they have High Republic exclusive stuff or Acolyte exclusive stuff, I'm throwing you money. Like, you just bring me things back.
That's literally been me in the prequels in the last couple of years. But listen, we're sort of dissecting away from Bad Batch. We've spoken about a lot of great moments. Does anyone want to talk about anything very briefly? We've not. I'm all out, if I'm honest. If anyone says what's your favorite scene, I'll say any line Crosshead said out loud and Hemlock spoke to as well.
I loved the blowing up of Rampart. I thought his demise was amazing. I loved that it just turned around. It literally just, you saw the explosion in the spot he was in. It was just like wonderful. That's a full stop on a character arc if there was one.
The darkness of it, and it's like there's no sound outside the rim. I love things like that.
Awful, but amazing. No, I just think I didn't have any really I just thought this last episode was so well done. Probably the last two have been crafted really well. I've loved all of the Omega stuff when she's been locked up with the other kids. I liked the Shawshanking through the prisons. I just thought her character arc has been fantastic in this final season. And yeah, overall, I'm really happy that I came into a show that I was watching more so we could talk about it, and that ended up one of my favorite. I'm going to miss the Bad Batch, and I would have never thought I'd say that at the start of this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I came into it looking forward to it, and I leave it. Yes, okay, I have some gripes about the epilogue, but they're just gripes. I'm not complaining. I genuinely think it from start to finish has been fantastic. And I think personally that my one abiding memory is going to be Crosshair on the IC planet when he shoots Lieutenant.
Yeah,
because it's such an emotional scene, but it's emotional in the way of just you see a man broken and make a choice, and he realizes the choices he's made that have led up to that point, and it's all encapsulated into D. Bradley Baker's voice and an animated face, and those two combined give you this chill. And that's it. It's been a really cracking show from something that we were like, okay, we'll see how this goes. Bad Batch, a lot of people thought they were the weaker characters. I'm pleasantly surprised that other people have come around to that same viewpoint. They're awesome, but regardless, it was a show that didn't have a lot of hype building into it, but it's something that I'm glad they did.
No, I'm the kind of same boat that it's a spin-off show. I think I don't want to say no right being as good as it was. It's very unfair, actually, if I say it looking back. But I think it's a spin-off series where it doesn't jump to the obvious of this is the show we thought we'd get for Star Wars, when actually they've delivered upon that and so much more, taking a group of essentially misfits in an elite squad to put them on this journey, adventure, this development. 4 different personas, the voice acting, as I mentioned, the production values. You guys have both spoken about it so well with how these animated shows have developed. And there's one thing going back to 2008 with George Lucas and the Clone Wars. He knew it was going to be one of the most expensive animated shows ever made, but he set a new precedent for animation with that series. Filoni carried that on when it came back to Star Wars Rebels. It wasn't so long ago the three of us talking about, oh my God, look how great it is seeing them walking in snow in Star Wars Rebels, to here we are as the years have gone by, talking not Clone Wars again, but seeing, the modern 4K graphics, the modern animation doing Clone Wars stuff that wasn't in pre-render, which we knew before the Clone Wars was unfortunately cancelled. And it does make me excited to see what new shows they may have. I don't think we'll get a Clone Uprising. People always spoke about that. I just don't think that would work after the Bad Batch. I feel like we had that for a couple of minutes in this anyway, but for whatever they do, I feel that if we get a new animated series,
it's like it's time for an era change.
That's what I'm like. I think you've either got to go. I don't even want to say pre episode 7 now, but I think you've either got to go to sequel territory, or as me who's an outsider, High Republic, because if High Republic's getting their due with the films, they're getting their due with TV series, they're clearly getting their due with the books and comics, and that phase 3 slowly coming to an end. It would be the call for them to try and do a High Republic series. I guess maybe they will. It would depend on the Acolyte. Maybe it would depend on other things. But also, I'd love to see a bit more of that sequel era explored between events of, I can't even say 7 and 9, can I? Because it's 1 year apart, that trilogy. But if there's a way for them to do stuff, I'd love to see some sequel trilogy things developed in there too. And yeah, it's kind of exciting talking Star Wars again. It's been a while since we've done it. I mentioned it's May. It's May the 4th on Saturday. There'll be a video going up. The Acolyte is on June the 4th. If we're lucky, there could be some spoiler-free Acolyte reviews before. I never get carried away with ideas like that, but there are discussions. But there will be other Star Wars videos this month. May is going to be a busy month. Doctor Who starts next Saturday, midnight in the UK, thanks to the American overlords of a British TV series. That's Tate's beef, not mine. But there will probably be Doctor Who reviews on the channel. There'll be new release reviews. I need to somehow go back to the cinema. I mentioned the Phantom Menace's 25th anniversary. I think May the 19th is the actual anniversary date, so maybe there'll be a big video on that day if there's going to be a video. I don't have a schedule to talk you through this, that, and the other that is always planned. Life is currently important, and it is something I'm not prioritizing videos. So when there are updates, there will be updates. I will put them on the social medias, like today. We're always going to do a Bad Batch reviews today, weren't we? But it's nice to be back talking all with you. And for people who have been commenting, thank you all for commenting. If you like this video, as I said, there is a lot more Star Wars. We'll do Acolyte reviews weekly when that starts in June time. I feel like there's more Star Wars stuff coming out that I'm really oblivious to that I've missed in the last month or two. I don't know. I really need to catch up on some stuff. And you can get us on social media where we will announce videos, we will announce our streams. So you can get us on linktree.com/cinemasavvy. But Phil, Dave, I haven't done an outro for a while. I feel really on edge. Have I missed anything? Is there anything else we need to talk about?
I think you're all good, my friend. Sign us off. Right. Let's go home and watch some space stuff.
Lovely. Thank you all for watching. Thank you both for joining me, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Bye.